Everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. And we got something special from the Wheel of Time staff this week in the way of an extra 3 or 4 minutes tacked on to the end of episode 8. So if you have the Prime Video app and you haven't done a rewatch of the Wheel of Time the last little bit, well, now would be the time to do it, because at about 54 minutes into episode 8, we get an extra 3 minutes added on, and it's a special sneak peek at season 2 of the Wheel of Time. And we get to see the DarkFriend Social in its entirety. We've seen a lot of shots before, both stills and little clips and teasers that the team has given us, but we haven't seen anything else. This time we get to see all of it, and it's pretty exciting. Now, if you're new to the channel, you don't know what we do here, we cover Wheel of Time show news, pretty much anything and everything related to the Wheel of Time. Well, that's what we talk about here. If you like that sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that like button. We have a few short weeks to the release of season 2. It comes out September 1st of this year, and I'm going to be doing a ton of videos on it. Breakdowns, Easter eggs, reviews, and of course, I will still cover all of the news, leaks, and rumors for Season 3 as Season 2 is released, and you're not going to want to miss any of that. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already done that. Now, before we get into the video, I do have to give a little bit of a spoiler warning because we're talking about elements of Season 2, and we're going to break down that teaser. So if you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to ruin some things for you. So, spoiler warning. In today's video, we're talking elements of Season 2 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show. So if you haven't seen Season 1, that's episodes 1 through 8, or read the first 3 books of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, that's The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn, be forewarned, I may ruin plot points and character arcs from both of those mediums. Alright, all of that being said, let's get on to the video. Alright, so we get the opening shots of the DarkFriend Social as this. So it is a manor house set in the middle of pretty much nowhere. There's a bunch of forests and some mountains in the background. A lot of the shots are pretty dark. It's hard to make out some of the details, so I've lightened some of them up. So if we take a look here, you can definitely see a lot of the fog around here. You can see the mountains in the background, the forest that's going around here. And we get up to the manor house itself. It's a 6-pointed star. So we'll brighten this up here. In this particular shot, you can see the 6-pointed star of the manor house, and to the left of it, what appears to be 6 different columns. Now, these become important, and we'll talk about them in just a moment, what I think they are, but one of them has fallen down. Now, I've seen a ton of talk online about where this could possibly be. Now, in the book series, the DarkFriend Social is a little bit different. It happens within the Blight near Ishamael, and there are dozens of people there, and it's from the point of view of a man named Boris. Now, Boris wanders around, and he basically is able to tell who a lot of the DarkFriends are at the Social by either their intentional or unintentional states of dress and the way they carry themselves. So he knows who is nobility, who are beggars, who are Aes Sedai, who are sailors, who are soldiers, who are white cloaks. He can tell all of this just at a glance because people aren't very good at hiding their identity, and yet he is very good at that. Now, I don't believe that any of this is happening anywhere near the Blight or Ishamael at all. I believe what we're seeing here is probably a manor house in Amadicia. Now, if you don't know what Amadicia is, it's one of the countries here. So this is a shot of the brand new map by Rob at Weekly Wheel News. Now, if you don't know who Rob is, I've left a link to the Weekly Wheel News Twitter account down below, as well as his website where you can order all of his merchandise, including these maps. He's given the digital copies of these maps out to every single content creator for us to use in our videos, which is very, very nice of him. And I actually have a physical copy of the map up here on the wall behind me. They're absolutely gorgeous and well worth the money you'll pay for them. Either way, I digress. Rob's link is down below if you guys want to purchase some of his merchandise or take a look at it at the end of the video. Now, Amadicia is to the left of Altara and at the base of the Mountains of Mist. So if we take a look here, we see the mountains in the background, we see a ton of fog, and that coupled with the fact that the 6-pointed star manor also matches the 6-pointed star that is on the flag of Amadicia. This gives me very, very strong circumstantial evidence that this is probably being held in Amadicia, which will likely be a central place for much of Season 2, because we know that Sean Chan and the White Cloaks are going to be very central to the plot of Season 2, and every single teaser that we've had out there. The IEL, of course, will be there too, but only in small little bits here and there, I think. I think it's going to be a lot of the Sean Chan, a lot of the White Cloaks, and I think we're going to see a lot of Amadicia and whatnot happening within the second season. Now, in addition to the 6-pointed star here, I wanted to mention something. In the Eye of the World in the glossary, it's described as a 6-pointed star with the thistle leaf underneath it, and the background is a bit different than shown here. In the world of the Wheel of Time and the Wheel of Time Companion, it's shown as a thistle leaf on top of the star, as well as the background being gold and blue. I don't know what the reasons for the change are, whether it was intentional or unintentional or just a mistake, but the flag of Amadicia is described in 2 different ways. Either way, the 6-pointed star is the central to both of them, and so is the thistle. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I think this is a very strong clue that this is Amadicia because it's a 6-pointed manor. Now, again, if you take a look at the door of this manor, you see these other 6-pointed stars. We'll get a little bit closer here. They also look just like the manor house and just like the flag of Amadicia. So I think at this point we can say that likely the setting is Amadicia, and that's going to be further cemented by the fact of who is in this teaser trailer that everyone thinks are Tinkers. I don't think they're Tinkers. I think they're Amadician nobility and her daughter, but we'll get into that in just a second. The teaser then goes on to show a little girl. Now, she's kind of playing outside the manor house, wandering around amongst these particular columns. We're going to talk about that column in just a minute, but she's central to the teaser. She's basically in every single shot. Now, a lot of people online have speculated that she's a Tinker because we get to see her mom a little bit later on in the trailer. Her mom is wearing very bright red, colorful robes, or a dress rather, and it matches the little girl's outfit. However, I do want to point out that Marcus Hong on Twitter did do some really great research on this. Now, the behind the scenes for season 1 basically showed a map of where all of the influences came from for each of the styles of clothing in each of the countries. And it did say that the Roma people were one of the influences of style of clothing for the Almoth Plain and Amadician culture. And he's showing it here, that the little girl's outfit, the map, as well as actual pictures of Roma costumes, like real Roma clothing, seems to almost identically match what the little girl is wearing. So the fact that she's a Tinker that everyone thinks is discussing online, I don't think is correct. I think that she's probably Amadician nobility. Her mom is probably the noblewoman who owns or has the manor house and is holding the DarkFriend Social, the meeting at her house. And instead of someone taking her there and didn't have childcare, the mom just probably kicked her outside and said, go play while mommy has an important meeting. It's my guess anyway, but I want to thank Marcus Hong for this particular research. I've left a link to his Twitter and the tweet down below so you can take a look at the whole Twitter thread about him talking about where all of the costuming comes from. A ton of great research went into this. Thank you so much for that, Marcus. All right, so as we see this little girl playing around these particular columns outside the manor house, we know there's 6 of them and one has fallen on the ground. We get a better shot of the fallen one. So you see the base of it here, but then you actually get to see the circular disc part of the column on the ground. Now, there's a ton of speculation on what these can mean, but let's take a look a little bit closer at what it is, brighten the image a bit. It's an 8-pointed star surrounding the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai. Now, we have no idea what this could possibly mean, but there's a lot of speculation. So in the Wheel of Time series, there's very little mention of 8-pointed stars. In fact, the only one I found was a Terra and Grail that detects men's channeling. I don't think that's what this is. There is a lot of speculation that the 8 points mean 8 Forsaken, which kind of makes sense with what we've seen in season 1 and the fact that we know they're definitely going to be amalgamating some Forsaken, getting rid of them, because there's a lot of them in the books that do very little. They can definitely be amalgamated to have bigger parts of the story, because they're sort of the throwaway villain of the week in the books. It's one of my complaints I have about the series. None of the antagonists seem really 3D. A lot of them are very 2D, a lot of them are very cookie cutter, and I think if they kind of melded them together and made them more important, we could definitely go with less Forsaken. It's just my thought on that. So those 8 points could mean the Forsaken. And if the Forsaken are represented by the 8 points of the star, and the 6 columns represent 6 seals in the Dark One's prison instead of 7, one falling on the ground can mean that the end of episode 8, season 1, when that cracks went through all of the seal on the ground, we know that one seal broke, and these could be a physical representation of the seals, and we know that maybe this fell at the same time. Either way, just idle speculation on my part, but I want to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think that the 8-sided star means, and what do you think that these particular columns mean? Are they just something cool they threw in the teaser? I don't think so. Almost everything seems to have some sort of meaning or Easter egg to the fans of the books, or just people watching the show. So I think there is a deeper meaning behind them. Do you think it could mean the seals in the Dark One's prison, could mean the Forsaken, or something completely different? Let me know in the comments down below. I really want to hear your folks' thoughts on that. Now, after she gets a good look at that, behind her we start to see what appears to be little flames coming at the edge of the forest, and they end up being torches carried by Trollocs. Now, the Trollocs do chase the little girl inside the manor house, where she kind of climbs under a table. Now, as she's climbed under the table here, we get to see a couple of different things. The first thing is a shot of what we think is her mother forward of us, because she runs right to her saying, "Mom, mom, mom," looking for help because she's being chased by monsters, of course. But we also, in the background, if you pay attention to the dialogue, get to hear Ishamael talking. Now, he's talking about the dragon, Randall Thor, and how he could be turned to his side, and how he can't hide from them because he's used all the power of the Eye of the World. Now, I have seen a few people online complain about the dialogue in these scenes. And these particular people that are complaining tend to be the ones that really enjoy the book series but hate the show. And they complain about almost anything and everything to do with the show. I'm here to tell you that a lot of these lines of dialogue spoken by Ishamael in these scenes are lifted directly word from the books. So if you don't like the dialogue here, well, don't like the dialogue from the books. It's not show. Maybe they don't like the way it was put together, edited, or cut, or fit in here, but they are Robert Jordan's words, just so you know. Either way, she's under the table, and as she's under the table, we get to see a few interesting things. The first thing is we get a shot of what appears to be High Lady Suroth. Same dress, same colors, same fingernails, and we do know that in the book series she is a DarkFriend. We've seen some promotional material with her standing next to Ishamael, so there was a lot of speculation that it would be more out in the open for the show, but I didn't realize they would do this, where they basically are telling everyone that High Lady Suroth is a DarkFriend, because that means that a lot of viewers are probably going to relegate the Shan-Chan with DarkFriends at the same time. I mean, they're evil enough in their own way, but it's a different way. So it's interesting to see what direction they're going to take with that in the show. The next thing we get to see is a black glove that has an Aes Sedai ring on it. Now, the Aes Sedai ring appears to have a black stone. So this is likely a member of the Black Aja, one of the DarkFriend Aes Sedai, but we really don't know who it is. Now, this particular figure does speak, but I couldn't place the voice. Maybe, kind of, sort of, it could have been Leandrin. I'm not 100% on that. If you watch the teaser a few times and you folks can place the voice, let me know in the comments down below, because I think it might be her, but it also might not be. I don't really know. It could be somebody completely new. I can tell you with confidence that they are definitely going to cut down the number of Black Aja in the show versus the books. There's a ton of them in the books, and a ton of them really don't do anything. So you're not going to hire actors and actresses to do things that really don't make much sense for the show. You're going to pay them money to just be there. I think they'll amalgamate a lot of those roles together. I think we'll see maybe a few prominent DarkFriend Aes Sedai and not a bunch of not so prominent ones. Next thing we see is a person that appears to be wearing Shineran clothing. Now, this is likely Ingtar, because we know he's a DarkFriend, and we know he's featured heavily in Season 2. Now, fun fact, we did have Ingtar in Season 1, although the actor that played Ingtar did end up leaving. Umber went to do one of the main characters on Willow on Disney+, and because he left, they retroactively changed his character's name from Lord Ingtar to Lord Yokota. And they do a little bit of voiceover work and some magical editing to cut that out, and we have somebody new for Ingtar for Season 2. Then you have the little girl going to her mother, and as she goes to her mother, of course, Ishamael comes down to see what is going on. As he's crouched down, you get to see that ring. Now, every single person associated with the Age of Legends so far on the show, from the dragon to Ferris, who plays Ishamael, is wearing that ring on their hand. We don't know what it is. We don't know if it's a Sangreal, an Angreal, a Terangreal. We believe it's an object of power, but it hasn't really been described as having a use just yet. I imagine at some point or another during the second season, or perhaps the third, they'll describe what it is, either in extra material behind the scenes or on screen, but it's featured very prominently in almost every shot that he's in, so I'm sure it's considered important, and we'll likely see what it is. Either way, I'd be interested to find out what it is. So he takes the little girl out from underneath the table, and he kind of walks her around, and he's talking to her just a little bit about monsters. He talks about his different names, the Father of Lies, Forsaken. So he's basically cemented to the audience at this point that he is not the Dark One, that he is one of the Forsaken, and then he uses the word Chosen to describe himself and the other Forsaken, which, on par for what's going on in the books, I'm really happy that he did that. Now, we've seen this particular shot a few times before, minus Ishamael and the little girl, of course, showing the people around the table at the DarkFriend Social. And we get a good overview of who they are. So we seem to have some of the sea folk. We seem to have what I believe is the Amadisian nobility, the lady with the red dress. Lady Suroth is there. There is definitely an Aes Sedai. There's a couple of white cloaks, some soldiers. We don't know who the soldiers belong to or what they're for. They're just wearing gauntlets on their hands. And of course, one of the people who we didn't know who it was Padan Fain. Now, the little girl and Ishamael talk just a little bit about monsters, and at this point they're sort of building up the side of the shadow to be more of a 3D element. In other words, that you're going to understand where they're coming from, the reasons why they're doing these things. Now, Ishamael did have some reasons that were mentioned further on in the books than the first few, but I think in the show they're going to kind of double down on that. We'll get to know the reasons why the Dark Friends are doing what they're doing, why they serve the Dark One, and we'll be able to identify with them a little bit more. Because let's face it, if you can identify with the antagonists in a show, it makes the show that much more engaging. So I think they're going to kind of double down on that and make them less of cookie cutter bad guys, so to speak, and more of 3D. Now, as they go through here, you get to see Padan and Fain. Now, Padan and Fain takes his hood down, which is par on the course for show Padan and Fain. None of the other Dark Friends reveal their identity. They don't take down their hoods at all. In fact, the girl's mother doesn't even move. But Padan Fain does take his hood down, and he gets that evil little grin. And of course, you hear that iconic whistle in the background that we've seen every single time Padan Fain was on screen for season 1. So I think we're going to be playing sort of a Where's Waldo with season 2 as well. Maybe we'll see Padan Fain in the background of a few different shots here and there. And check it out in my Easter egg videos when we do them. But we always do get to hear that little whistle when he's on screen. After that, we get to see that door that I showed earlier with that 6-pointed star, and the little girl and Ishamael go outside. They talk just a little bit about the Trollocs and how they're not monsters. They just do what they're supposed to. And we do get to see Ishamael and the little girl touch the face of a Trolloc, which is very, very interesting and very creepy. Now, the whole time this was going on, I thought for sure Ishamael was going to chuck the little girl the Trollocs and they were going to eat her. That didn't happen. It put more of a human face on the Dark Friends. It made me not like them, but made me not instantly hate them and kind of be curious as to what their motivations are, which I think is the whole point for the second season. That might be the mystery for season 2. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention that the Trollocs in these scenes were completely practical effects, and I loved them. I loved every minute of it. For those of you who've watched the channel for quite some time, who followed me through season 1, you know that I absolutely loathe CGI unless I can't tell it's CG. If I can't tell it's CG or I'm so engrossed in the show that I don't notice it, I'm super happy with it. But if I can tell it's CG, it kind of rips me out of the reality of the show and brings me back to our reality, and it just ruins the experience. Happened with Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. CG for that was mostly pretty good. And then there were a couple of scenes, especially with the warg, that was just horrible. It just ruined it. I'm really happy to see they're going on along with the practical effects of the Trollocs like they did in season 1 most of the time. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that in season 2. And so far, from what we've seen with the CG and the visual effects for season 2, they certainly took their time. They got it right, because a lot of it, although you know it's CG, it's done so well that you don't really care. The power, things like that we've seen in the teaser trailers, I really like the way they've done that. So yes, we waited a long time for season 2, almost 2 years, not quite, but very close. And I think it's going to be well worth the wait. Now, let me know what you folks think of the teaser down below. Have you seen it yet? It's the first you've seen of it. What do you think of my thoughts? Is this happening in Amadicia? Is the little girl and her mother Amadician nobility, and that's their manor? Or are they tinkers, like people are kind of speculating about online? Do you like the way they kind of ingrained dialogue from the book into this particular scene and had Ishamael walk around and talk about it? Do you like the idea that the Dark Friends are a little bit more robust in their intentions, so to speak? They're not just there because they're Dark Friends. They don't just serve the Dark One because they have reasons behind it, and they're making them more human, so to speak, even though the Chosen are likely not quite human. Do you like that sort of thing, or would you rather them be more like the cookie-cutter 2D villain of the week like the books? Some people like that. I don't particularly enjoy that, but I know some people do. Either way, let me know what you folks think in the comments down below, and watch the next couple days. I have probably at least a video a day coming out for the rest of the month into the lead up to season 2. There's a whole lot coming from What Up here, and I'm very, very excited. I can't wait to see what's in store for us when they start dropping the episode September 1st. So thank you so much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.